Hello, Scrappy friends. Welcome back to my channel. We have something a little different today. I wanted to talk about the Creative Memory Variety Mat Pack cards. Now, I have really learned to embrace using these cards straight out of the pack, using them for titling, journaling, matting photos, but some of them I have a little bit difficult time using because they're just a little bit too big for what I am looking for. And I'm thinking that there's probably a lot of people out there having the same issue that I have. So that's where I came up with the idea of using just half the mat. And that's what I want to talk about today. So there's 24 cards in a pack usually, and the cost is about equivalent to less than 50 cents a card. This style right here is very easy for me to use, right? Cut it in half and I have half my card already. I have a card with lines and then one without. So it's very easy to use, and look at all the great colors. So even if I don't use them for that particular collection, I file them according to color, and then when I need a certain color, I go look and I usually have something in there. So these are super easy to use. The back sides are usually big journaling boxes. And what I have learned about myself scrapbooking is I don't really have that much to say. I'm kind of more of a light journaler. I kind of stick to the basics, the who, what, where, and when. So this size is too big for me, but these little ones are perfect. And when you cut them in half, you've just doubled your stash. Some of the other ones are great for titles. All I would do here is fussy cut out and you have an awesome title. If you fussy cut very gently, you even can still use the pattern behind to mat a photo. The thing about the patterns that come in the mat pack, some of them match the paper in the collection and others are either slightly different or completely different. So you have such a wide variety to use. So I would cut this out with an X-Acto blade and then I would still have the mat available. All the cards are double-sided. So you have on the title cards, they usually say the same thing on both sides, so you can choose. This one is easier to fussy cut out. This one you have to do a little bit of what I like to call creative cutting. So on all of these, I would take them to my die cut machine and see if I had a die cut that I can put on top and cut it out, like I've done on this one. This was a mat card, and I just ran it through with a tag punch, and it comes out perfectly. So titles is another great use of the mat cards, and others of them have a couple of uses to them. This one, you can either keep it whole or fussy cut out the flower and just use the journaling box. And if you really liked fussy cutting the flower, you can use both flowers and forget the journaling box. Same here, two-sided. Pick which one you like. And same with this one. But what do you do with these? These are the ones that are a bit more challenging for me because they have big areas. And like I said, I am what I like to consider myself as a light journaler. So this might be hard for me to fill up, and I would feel like I have to write super big just to fill it in. And then these have ovals, and the oval really poses a challenge for me because I guess I just don't use ovals a lot. And it just seems like I have so much extra space around the outside. So if I did use this, I would probably end up trimming down some of the green plaid. And then the back side is a big block area. Again, you can use this as a photo mat, but we can also add smaller portions to our layout instead. Let me show you some examples. Here's the oval that I cut down, and I only used half the card. So what I did was I decorated the side of the card and I added some journaling lines to the oval so it gave me a place to write. Here's another oval. I turned it on its side and I used it as a place for my embellishment cluster. I added a simple border and a couple stickers, and it changed the look completely. Now the oval just becomes a base for my embellishment cluster. Here's one where I took the back side, the big block, and I made it into a smaller area. It could be a journaling box, or it could just be a cute decoration for your page. And one more, I took the lined card and also made it into a smaller journaling card and added decorations to the side. So once you cut the card in half, you have an exposed edge, and that's the part that I'm decorating. So let me clean up. I'll come back and we'll do a couple examples. Hold on. Okay, so here we are, and these are the first two types of designs that I want to create with you. And so I went ahead and I've cut the mat in half. This was a 4.5 by 6 inch mat, and I just cut it down at 3¼ inches, and so that I could work with both sides of the mat. So the first one I'm going to start with is this design here. So let's go ahead and move that out. And the biggest piece of advice that I can give when you're working with half the mat is to cover up the edge. Because once the edge is covered up, it looks like it's its own mat and was never even cut in half. And that's how I'm going to get double use out of my mat. First thing I want to do is decide what look I'm going for. And I liked how I did this over here with some leaves going up and then a flower at the top. So I want to recreate that. For this one, I'm going to bring in the Leafy Vine border punch and punch out. We don't need the whole 12 inches, but I'll go ahead and cut it out and use what we need and save the rest for later. This is a chain style punch, and it works perfectly for this kind of element that we want to use because it's going to already give it that natural flow of going upward because it's a vine, and we'll put a flower at the top. So I'm going to take this stem that's kind of runs down the middle of the vine and just place it over the edge, and it automatically covers that right up. I'm just going to adjust the size based on what I need, trim it right about there. And then put it here, and I can still make some trims as I go along and decide how exactly I want it. Already kind of creates a nice little area. We can still use this as a journaling box if we want, or an embellishment cluster, or a place to house our title, or a combination of any of those. So next I want to bring in my fresh flower punch, and I'm going to punch out one flower. What I like to do with this flower to give it this look is I use the petals that come as the fallout and turn them upside down and put them back into the flower like that. So I just need a little bit of repositionable tape, put it in the center, and just start laying the petals back in. And it works super great when there's a good contrast between the back and front sides of the paper. Then what I'm going to do here is you have a couple options. You can either cover the center up with the circle that came out, and it would look like that, super cute. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in some gems that I had in my stash, and I'm going to place a cute little heart gem right in the center like that, and just cover up where all those little petals met together. Makes for a super quick and beautiful embellishment. And then I'm going to put this at the top of my vine and decide how high up I want it. So I think I will trim this down just a tad. And then adhere the flower right on top. You can go up as high as you like. I do want it coming off the card slightly, so it'll look like that. Then I want to do a little more than I did on this original one. So I'm going to bring in this cute little title from the Sunflower Fields sticker sheet, Living Life to the Fullest. I thought that's super cute. And I'm going to bring it right down here, kind of tuck it in the Leafy Vine punch out and then onto the card a little bit as well. And then one last thing I want to bring in for this card is I want to bring in a little heart. So I'll bring in my heart from the mini trio set, and I'm going to bring in some eggplant scrap paper, and I just want the heart from here. So I'll just guide it in through the back, make a punch out, and I'm just going to put the heart probably around here somewhere, maybe off to the side. I have that cute little area there. And I brought in some eggplant because this had some purple, and that color goes with this collection, so I thought it would be a great addition. And I still have all this room to do some quick and easy journaling. So that's my idea for the first one, covering up the seam with a punch. So now let's move on to this design. So the concept here is, again, the same. Just want to cover up that open seam here and just give it a more finished look. So on this one, I used a cute rustic fence and created a makeshift sunflower coming up, and again leaves me all that room right there for journaling. Okay, so let's go ahead and work on this one using the same concept. This time I want to do a horizontal punch around the bottom. So for that, I'm going to bring in the new Tent and Trees border making cartridge. This mat card came from Sunflower Fields, but I want to use it to create a camping theme. I'm going to bring in some dark brown or hot cocoa brown and punch out a small, I don't need a lot again, but I'll punch out a couple. Let's see. So this one is an edge punch, and really how much edge you trim off will be up to you. Here I just did a little, but what I want to do is kind of mimic what I did here. So I'm just going to trim off a small amount. The 1 inch mark should be great. And then kind of bring it in and see where you're willing to trim it at. So I could lay it right here and trim between the tent and the trees here, or I could bring it in a little more and trim a tree, tent, and then trim it right about there. So it really depends on the look you're going for, and I think that's what I'm going to do. Just trim it right about here. You can always save this for a little embellishment on something else. And it's not going to be the full width of the card, so I'm going to center it in the middle. And I just have to point out the cute little heart that punches out between those little trees. I just love that when I realized that was there. What a cute little addition. And I do want both hearts to be totally solid, so I'll scoot it over just a tad so that can happen, and then I'll adhere it right there. And then to continue building up this card, I thought it would be a great place to house a title, and this came off the sticker sheet, so I'm just keeping with the same colors I'm already using, the browns and the greens, and it says what a great day, so I'm keeping it very generic as well. And I think I'm going to pop that up onto some foam tape, and it'll go right up here toward the top, probably going off the top a little. Then I thought I would dip into my outdoor collection or my camping, and I found these great pine trees, sprigs, so I thought that would be perfect. Again, I'm going to just hang them off the edge like that on one side, and a smaller one coming out the other side. So it'll look like this. And then one last final touch, I'm going to bring in some scrap from the collection and my little teeny star. And I'm just going to punch out 3 little stars and put them in a little cluster on the card. And so it's going to go something like this. Card number 2. A little camping theme. Let me clean this up and I'll be back with number 3 and 4. Hold on. So here are the next 2 that I want to show you. It's basically the same concept. It's just using the oval card instead. Like I said earlier in the video, the oval cards are a little bit more challenging for me to use. So I did the same thing. I cut the large mat into 2 pieces so I could use half the mat. So this equals 3 1/4 inch width. Okay, so let's start with this one down here. And for this, I just turned the oval on its side. Now you'll see this card here is a little bit smaller because these oval cards have a little bit more pattern on the outside than the other side with the rectangle. This one only has about 1/4 of an inch all the way around, where the oval you have a lot of extra. So I trimmed this down to make it a little bit smaller. And I did that on 3 sides. So I came down here and I cut off quite a bit. I went to 2.75. And then I also took 1/4 inch off of each of the sides as well to make this a 4-inch width. And it just made it a little bit smaller and daintier to work with. Then I brought in a border making cartridge. This one is the double scalloped, but for today's, I want to bring in the scalloped hearts. I'm gonna bring in a piece of canary yellow cardstock, and I'm gonna punch out, well, probably 1/2 of a row. I won't need more than 6 inches. And now this is an edge punch, so I do need to trim this out. And what I'm going to do here is change my blade. I'm going to just use a fancy blade. I'm going to use the scallop. And I'm going to cut it at 1 1/4 inches. And let's bring this back in. And then this will go right down here, and you can play with how much of a shelf you want to leave it. So this is kind of like a shelf. Gonna tuck that right in behind it. Covers up that raw edge perfectly. I think I'll leave a heart on each edge. So I'll just cut off 1 heart for now and see as we go along if I want to trim it anymore. And so I'm just going to rest that right there. And you can see already it makes the oval not stand out as much. Then the reason I left so much room here is because now I want to bring in a border sticker. And I kind of want to put that just in the center like that. And in fact, I think what I'm going to do is make it a little smaller. That. And then the sticker I'll line up in the middle, and it looks like it'll look like that. And I'll just trim off the sides. And then right in here, I'm just going to use this as an embellishment cluster base. So I'll bring in some more stickers from the sticker sheet. I had several left in this collection. I'm going to bring in this beautiful pumpkin with some sunflowers, and I'm going to tuck that right underneath. I'll bring in another flower sticker from the sticker sheet and kind of just come out from the side. So the embellishment cluster is kind of spreading out throughout the whole oval. And then a couple other pieces to bring in. I'm going to bring in the little sticker. It's brown and it says together. Again, I'm just using pieces from the collection and keeping within the same colors that I've already used. And I'm going to put this right about there, and it'll look like that. And then lastly, I'm going to bring in one of the hearts that came out from my border punch, and I think I'll put that right up here. That's card number 3. Here I made the shelf and I extended it past the card. Here I made the shelf and kept it just the width of the card. Okay, let me clean this up and we'll bring on the 4th and final card. Hold on one moment. Okay, here's our last one. And you can see on this one, I did something a little different. I took my journaling template and I drew lines on here to make it have the appearance of a journaling spot. But I also, if you look on this side, I extended it a little bit on this side to make it seem like the card was a little bit longer. And you'll see the little seam right there. So I have the raw edge of the oval. And what I did was, when I trimmed it like I did in the last one, I trimmed off about 1/2 inch over here. I took that 1/2 inch, swung it around, and I bring it over here to this side. It will leave a seam, so I had to cover it up. For the most part, I covered it up except for that one little section. but I think you could even play with that and get your sticker on there to cover more if you wanted to. Okay, so that's my attempt this time. I'm going to cut this down and bring it over here, and then we're going to make a journaling box here, but I'm going to do something a little different than I did right here. So let's do that first. Let's cut down the card. So let's go ahead and cut this down. We're only going to take a 1/4 inch off this time. And then we're going to bring it to this side. But I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to bring in some of my old photo splits, and I'll take a couple of those out. They still work perfectly. They're great for welding things together, and I'm just going to push those together tightly and then put a photo split on top of that seam to kind of pinch it and hold it together. And there we go. I've added the color over here, and it's just to extend the card to make it look like the card extends past the oval in our finished product. So now what I want to use to cover this up is I want to bring in some more border stickers, and there's this cute one in this collection of some sunflowers just growing upwards, and I thought that would be perfect. And this one covers up the seam very nicely. So I'll have the top sunflower protruding off the top of the mat, and then I'll come down here and trim this off. And there we go. And then I want to continue adding some more embellishments. So for this one, I am going to bring in this large sunflower sticker from the sticker sheet. And I think I'm going to put that right around here somewhere. Before I make my final placement, I am going to bring in my 5-leaf punch and a piece of green paper from this collection. And we will put this kind of going at an angle. There we go. I like that. And I'm going to bring in a little word sticker. These just came from my Totally Tonal packs. And this one just says family time. And I'm going to place that just like that over the sunflower. Okay. Now what I'm going to do for the journaling, I want to bring in these write-on strips. These are kind of a new product. I've been using them. I think it's super fun to take them and stagger your journaling. So I would, before I use this, I would write my journaling out on the strip first and then figure out where to cut it. When you're doing that, maybe leave little gaps so that you can kind of make it easier to decide where to cut it. And then what I would want to do is bring them along here and stagger them. So I'll probably put one right here and then trim it. Of course, it would depend on where my words were. And then the next one right here and trim it. I would like to keep them separate lengths. And then one more. It looks like I have plenty of room to journal. And this is just to do something different than always just doing lines. But to really make this pop out, I think I would come back in and add a little bit of foam squares right underneath each one. So let me go ahead and do that. And there you go. And of course you can add more lines if you needed to write a little bit more, and you could always just draw in the lines like I did there, or leave it out altogether. So lots of options, but there's the finished card for this one. Let me go ahead and bring them all back in. But before I bring in all the cards for one final view, I'd like to ask you, if you're enjoying this video, please click that like button. I really would appreciate it, and I thank you for doing that. Okay, so here's all the half matte cards decorated, and this is what I love. I took those beautiful cards that I couldn't use because they were just a little too large for what I needed. I cut them right in half, added some decorations to match my theme, and I just love this super dainty size of the mats. For me, it's much more usable. I can fit on a 3x4 card a lot easier than I can using a whole 6x4. I know a lot of you have that same concern, but we just love these cards and we want to use them. So here are some great ideas. I hope that you got some kind of inspiration out of this and that you like this idea and that you give this a try. Super fun, super quick. You could sit around and just play with product and have a little bit of fun with your tools at the same time. So that's all I have for today. Thank you all for joining me. And until next time, everybody, take care. Bye-bye.